Hey everyone, San Joaquin Valley Transparency. I'm glad you're here. I definitely needed to share this video with you guys. I want to point something out. This Representative James points out different things. He points out issues and problems with police and why they misbehave and how they're allowed to do it. He mentions police unions. After they commit an offense or whatnot, they get their job back because of the unions or whatnot. He points out cases specifically, which is very important. And like I said, this whole race issue is a tough issue to tackle because it's a serious issue and it's a serious problem. But I do believe that there are other problems involved in this. Police officers are able to get away with misbehaving with their terrible judgments. Whether a police officer is jealous of another man or another person, they'll go out and misbehave and treat people like crap and arrest them and give them tickets to mess with them. Maybe it's racism. Officers misbehave at any given moment. One of the things that I believe is a bigger problem than racism, and nobody's talking about, is narcissism. Racism, you hate a certain race, right? Well, narcissism, you pretty much think that you're better than everyone. So I believe that people have a sense of narcissism on many different levels. I was talking to my oldest son about this, and he said something that was very interesting. He said that racism is taught. Narcissism isn't. It's just something that grows inside of you. Well, I think there's many forms of narcissism, and I think that he's right to a certain level, and I also think that narcissism is also something that is embedded in us. We're very competitive people. Look at two children, two brothers who are playing with a toy, and one of them wants a toy and grabs and cracks the other one in the head with it because he's like, "This is my toy, little bitch." So he takes the toy, and it's a form of competitiveness, narcissism, whatever. This situation is not going to change unless we truly have police reform, and I'm really glad that many of you are talking about this now. And now it's not only us as activists, politicians are now talking about it. Why didn't they see these things a long time ago? Why is it that we, the people, myself included, pointed these things out years ago? Why is it that we can see what's going on and these politicians are barely catching on to it? Yeah, no. One of the reasons why the police have the power that they have and it's given to them, and neither the Democrats nor the Republicans want to take the power away, is because when they want to enforce policy, they cannot enforce those policies if they're constitutional violations. Unless people don't know their rights, cops aren't held accountable for their mistakes, constitution violations, amendment violations, and they just completely get away with it. Since 9/11, police, no, they're not trained in understanding people's rights in the Constitution. Since the Patriot Act came out, people's rights have been violated left and right, and it's only gotten worse. Every year, the numbers keep increasing. How do we take the power back and give it back to the people so that our rights are not being violated? And when police officers violate rights, they're finally held accountable or to a higher standard. I can go on and on about what I'm talking about in police and situations and how they behave and how they get away with it. So yeah, I do believe there are racist police. I do believe there are narcissistic police out there with narcissism. Without further ado, let's listen to Representative James and what he's talking about. Let's keep in mind that what he's pointing out is a systemic problem, not just for black people, but because of the way things have unfolded. I do not disagree with everything that he's saying. I actually agree with absolutely everything that he's saying. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Thank you guys.
So we operated in good faith earlier, Blake, to not have the type of conversation. That's why we agreed to the amendments. But since we are here, and since I didn't want to start it, but I ain't gonna run from it. So if we wanted to fully have a conversation, we shouldn't have watered down the damn bill. We had a commitment, and at this point, Blake, I did everything I said I was gonna do. I watered down my bill, we watered down this one to prevent what I'm about to do right now. If we wanted to have a full conversation, we wouldn't have changed the wording of the bill. We all know that police officers get murdered. But you know what happens to the people that murder police officers? If they survive, they get arrested. You know what happens to police officers that kill people that look like me, Blake, Tony? They get a taxpayer-funded vacation. In Baton Rouge, Blaine Salamone got a taxpayer-funded vacation for over a year. Then when he got fired, you know what happened? The union and everybody could walk out. I don't care who walks out. Because I agreed that we weren't going to do this, didn't I, Blake? But we are here now. Tony and committee talked about the fact that as a police officer, he's had to fire some of his friends for pepper spraying somebody in handcuffs. Tony, I was pepper sprayed in handcuffs by a police officer, a white one. Doty and committee said, oh, if something happens to you and you see, and I'll intervene. And you said, if something happened to me, you said that I would intervene. And Doty, as a man, I probably want to intervene, but as a black man, I'm not intervening if a cop is doing something to you. Because while I love you, I love my daughter even more, and I got to go home to her. And I don't have a trust enough for me to intervene that I won't get shot and killed. We talk about the taser incident. Brian Fontenot, you talked about the taser incident of a guy in Atlanta. And you said that was an adequate police shooting. They had another taser incident of a white man who took a taser from a cop. The cop ran away. The same person stole a police car. Did he get shot and killed? Hell no. Had it been black, he'd have been shot and killed. That's why we are here. That's why you see several people, white, black, young, old, marching over not just streets in Louisiana, streets all across the country. I will concede that there's an issue with police brutality, period. Way too often, when the victim of that brutality is an African American, that officer skates. And the first thing you see is when that black boy was suspended from the 5th grade, or when he got kicked off his football team. You don't see all the disciplinary actions of the officer. You didn't see after Alton Sterling got killed that Blaine Salamone, the person that trained him, sent an email that said he should have never been a police officer, said he was psychotic. But you know what happened? He walked on the scene, and I don't need water, and I appreciate the amendment that says several, because the first piece of legislation only mentioned George Floyd. Blake, we could have filled 5 pages up with names. 5 pages up. And you know what happened to Blaine Salamone? After he killed Alton Sterling, after one officer was being calm, within 5 seconds he showed up and said, B-I-T-C-H, I'll kill you. And within less than a minute, he fulfilled his promise. Yusef Ahmadi, a police officer in Baton Rouge. 3 years ago, he killed a person. Since we going there, we going there. We're going to talk about it all. He killed a young black man. 2 years ago, he shot at another one. He said, the man fired a shot at me, so I returned 2 rounds of fire. Everybody says, get body cameras. You know what happened to the body camera? Turned off. You know what happened to the front dash cam camera? Turned off. You know what happened to the rear camera? It was tilted down. And when this young African-American male was paraded across the screen in handcuffs, he said, check the tape, check the tape. I never had a gun. Thank God for that rear cam recording, because it didn't have any footage but it had audio. All you heard was 2 shots. Yusef Ahmadi was a liar. You know what happened? He was fired, and guess what? He was fired after almost a year because our DA wouldn't prosecute him. Then he went to the police union and got his job back. Tony, you passed the bill last session that made it illegal to throw water on police officers. When stuff happens to police officers, we respond. When stuff happens to African-American males, we come up here in kumbaya, but we don't respond with action.
Representative Jay, one minute left. We were still under the 5-minute rule.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Because I didn't want to do this, and I agreed not to do it. But since there's an ask to talk about the entire issue, let's talk about the entire issue. Ladies and gentlemen, they might be words to you, and if you're offended by the words, some of us are offended by the actions. And Blake made a good point. Blake has children of color. And when you stood back there and you said, I'm concerned about them, that hit me. And I'm concerned about them as well. And I know some of you guys are uncomfortable right now. This is supposed to be an uncomfortable conversation. But thank God that you have to deal with an uncomfortable conversation and not an uncomfortable life when lights are shining behind you. And if you think that this little stupid pen right here prevents me from feeling fear, it doesn't. Because as a member from this body, I get my haircut on Nicholson Drive. Many of you have passed by it. On a day, sunny day, 5 of us are standing outside. Police officers pull up. Nothing happened. Give me your identification. So I said, okay. I handed him my legislative card and a card from my law office. Oh, we're sorry. And many of you are probably give them the benefit of the doubt. Oh, something must have happened. No, it didn't. because I called the precinct captain. They didn't have a call. 5 black men standing outside and 3 officers pulled up. And then one of them had the audacity to tell me, I thought you were one of them. I am one of them. Just because I had this pen doesn't make me any different. And I want you guys to know that despite the title, as soon as I walk out of here, to many people, I'm just one of them. I report.
All right.